Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Clara, and today I'm here with a really exciting video that I've been wanting to make for a long time. I have finally gathered a kind of small collection of Tom Ford and Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadows, both the cream and the powder. And I just wanted to share my thoughts on comparing the two brands with you. For those of you who don't know, Charlotte Tilbury actually helped Tom Ford with the creation of his makeup line before she started her own brand, and that's why there are certain similarities between the two. What I'm going to do is give you a basic overview of the similarities and the differences, and then I'll follow up this video with individual demonstrations of each of the palettes so you guys can see those if you are interested, but I didn't want to make this video too long today. For the outer packaging, they're both a hard case, they're kind of a dark brownish color, and they both have like metallic accents on them. The Tom Ford one does come with a brown dust cover, and it also comes with a couple of applicators. They're double-ended, so you get 4 little applicators for travel, one for each of the colors, and they both do have a mirror inside the palettes. So right away you can see that the shades in the Tom Ford palette are actually much bigger than the shades in the Charlotte Tilbury palette. Now sometimes they have kind of like shallow pans, so I wanted to show you the difference actually in ounces so you guys can see price-wise the difference between the two. Here I have the Charlotte Tilbury Dolce Vita palette on the top, which is what I used on my eyes today, and I have the Tom Ford Honeymoon quad on the bottom. The Tom Ford one is very expensive. It's $82 to buy the quad, but actually surprisingly the Charlotte Tilbury one is more expensive per ounce, even though it's only $53 for the quad. There are 0.18 ounces in the Charlotte Tilbury quads and 0.35 ounces in the Tom Ford quads. This makes the Charlotte Tilbury one $294 an ounce. Now the second most expensive is the Tom Ford cream eyeshadow. This one happens to be in Sphinx. It is a limited edition color, I think, but it's still around. It's been around for a long time, so you can still get it. And I really like, if you can see, how it has such a depth of dimension in this one. Definitely this has more dimension to it than the Charlotte Tilbury cream eyeshadows, but it is more sheer. So when you apply it, you get a wash of kind of gold and pink and peach, and it's a very like intense like shine to it, but it's not quite as opaque a color as the Charlotte Tilbury creams. This is $45 for 0.17 ounces, which makes it the second most expensive per ounce at $265 an ounce. The Tom Ford eyeshadow quads come in the third most expensive per ounce. It's $82 a quad, and it has 0.35 ounces in it, making it $234 an ounce. And then actually the cheapest per ounce are the Charlotte Tilbury cream eyeshadows. These are $32 for 0.24 ounces, which makes them $133 an ounce. And this one is Jean, which is kind of a really nice cream eyeshadow. It's sort of a champagne color. The Charlotte Tilbury cream eyeshadows are more opaque on the eyes, but they don't really give as much depth of color or dimension as the Tom Ford eyeshadows, but they do have a really nice shine. And they're also great to use as a base under other eyeshadows because the brightness of it really makes the shadows that go on top pop. And I would definitely go back and purchase more of any of these shadows. I absolutely love them. I think the quality is great from both brands. Just something to keep in mind if you have extremely oily eyelids like I do. I always get creasing on like the inner corners of my eyes with a primer, without a primer, with anything. It always creases. These are great quality eyeshadows, but they're not magic, they're just makeup. And if you think about it, makeup remover is basically oil, so if you're producing oil on your eyelids, it's gonna take a little bit of the makeup off. The creasing is not bad by any means, but if you do have very oily eyelids and everything creases on you, don't expect these to be different. I've heard great things from people with normal and dry eyelids. They love them, they don't crease, but if that's a continuous problem for you, just be aware of that. But I do think that the pigment and the texture, just the way that they look when they're on, the way that they stay on, they don't fade at all, and just the dimension that you get with these shadows, there's no fallout, they're just really amazing. And I would say that the quality of the individual eyeshadow quads that you purchase is better than either the Charlotte Tilbury Instant Look in a palette eyeshadows or the Tom Ford Soleil collection, which comes with other stuff. They're kind of like bargain palettes, I guess, where you get more stuff in there for the price. So the quality of them is slightly lesser than buying them individually, if you are wondering. And I do want to just mention that I will leave the links to the reviews of the Charlotte Tilbury Instant Look in a palettes. I do have the Natural Beauty and the Seductive Beauty up, and I do have also the Tom Ford Winter Soleil in Warm from this past year. I have reviews on all of those, and I also have a review on the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Muse palette, which I will link below, but it's limited edition, so I don't really want to go into it here. Now, I do think that the quality in all of these shadows is basically equal. So I'm just going to talk about them in terms of my favorite color selections. My top favorite is the Ford Nude Dip. You can see how much I have used this palette. It's basically like, it's looking a little bit worse for the wear, but it's really a wonderful palette because it's just beautiful neutrals. I was a little worried because they're all shimmer in this eyeshadow palette, but it does look very natural and beautiful and I love it. I will also link the videos where I'm wearing each of these so you can go back and see those if you'd like. And don't forget that I'm going to post the demos using each of these palettes in the near future. For both of these lines, most of the eyeshadows are kind of like shimmer or glitter. In this palette, they're all shimmer. Tom Ford does also have a all matte palette, except for one shade, which is a shimmer, which is the Cocoa Mirage palette if you're more into mattes, and I have swatched those in store and they are buttery and fantastic. They're so great. I'm gonna have to go back and pick those up, but my heart belongs to the shimmers. And one more thing that I do want to mention is I feel like the color selection in Tom Ford's line is more like natural, more neutral, more subtle. And by comparison, Charlotte Tilbury has more like dramatic colors, more like sultry, smoky, and like pops of color in her line. So that's another thing depending on what you're looking for. And also I will say that Tom Ford, he does a lot of like glitter eyeshadows, which are sort of more of a sheer wash of color. So they do give a really, really beautiful glitter look, no fallout. They're really fabulous glitter eyeshadows, but they're not really meant to be very opaque glitter. They're just sort of supposed to give a wash of color over the other eyeshadows. And some of his palettes do have 2 glitter eyeshadows in them. So that kind of, I would say, limits the color selection a little bit in them, but it does give you more glitter eyeshadows if that's what you like. And Charlotte Tilbury always does kind of a pop shadow in her palettes, which is typically a glitter shadow as well. Again, no fallout, really beautiful. I do find that those ones, the glitter builds up to be a little bit more opaque. Again, she's more about like intense colors rather than just a wash of color, even though you can apply the glitter lightly and get just kind of a wash of color to change your look. My second favorite, and the one that I've actually had for longest, is the Charlotte Tilbury Vintage Vamp palette. And this one, it has a couple of basically matte eyeshadows. This one is a shimmer and then this one is a glitter shade. So this is the pop shade. It's just a really beautiful gold color. The one complaint that I have with this palette is I feel like these 2 colors are way too similar to be included in a palette of only 4 eyeshadow colors. I really don't notice a huge difference between the 2 on my eye. It would have been nice to see her change it up a little, but the overall look is so beautiful. The other great thing about Charlotte Tilbury's palettes is that they're arranged in sort of an order, and she has instructions on how to use them. Always in the top left is the prime shade, which goes all over the lid, and then the enhance, and then the smoke, and then the pop. So that's the order that she suggests using them in. It can take you from a day look to a night look, and it's really nice if you're not a makeup artist and you just like to have things really simple. I think this is my next favorite. It's very new to my collection, so I've only had a chance to use it a couple of times, but I love the berry shades in here. This is the Honeymoon quad, and it's all shimmers, which is really nice. It's very like bronze and gold on the top, and then the bottom is nice and berry. It's very pretty. And lastly, we have the Dolce Vita Charlotte Tilbury palette, which I do love. It's very bronzy and rust colored, and it's a little bit more like intense and smoky, which I tend not to wear as much, but it's a really great palette. And I love the way this bronzed glitter pop shade layers over the rusty red shade. It looks so beautiful. It's definitely more of a going out type of palette though. And this does have a lot of similarities with the Instant Look in a Palette Seductive Beauty, if you're wondering. I wanted to point out a few shade similarities. They're not exact dupes by any means, but you can see these 2 kind of berry shades are similar to the ones in the Vintage Vamp, and the prime shade in the Dolce Vita is pretty similar to this first shade in the Honeymoon Quad 2. Again, not exact, but I just thought I'd mention it. And the Honeymoon quad has been sold out a lot recently because the colors are very popular, as you can imagine, as is the Nude Dip. I will be back actually later in the week because I did manage to get my hands on one of the new Marc Jacobs 7 eyeshadow palettes, which are kind of their reformulated palettes. They will be available in the beginning of July for everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have tried any Charlotte Tilbury or Tom Ford products and what you've thought of them. I do want to mention that there has been a giveaway winner chosen for the Guerlain media rights, but we will do another giveaway when I hit 1,000 subscribers, so stay tuned for that. I hope that you're all having a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again really soon. Bye!